Hey everybody, welcome to the vlog. I'm now shooting this vlog on my brand new camera. I don't know if you're even going to see the difference, but we'll soon see. I'm using a new mic, but I'm going to be upgrading the mic very soon. I don't know how clear the sound is going to be. Anyhow, so let's get to it. Is Bitcoin a bubble? Is Ethereum a bubble? Is Litecoin a bubble? So a bubble is an economic term, a finance term. It refers to when an asset class, could be a house, could be Bitcoin, could be Ethereum, could be stock market, could be anything that you buy and sell in terms of hoping that the value will go up. This is an asset. So Bitcoin is now an asset. The governments, I think they call it a commodity. I think they treat it as a commodity, and there's all these tax implications for that. So the big proponents of Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin, they think it's the blockchain underlying all these coins is a technology called blockchain, which is kind of a giant database. So far so good. If you were invested in these things from the beginning, you've made huge amounts of money if you've cashed out. And I have no idea if and when it's going to collapse, or if it's going to collapse. It is by definition, though, I don't know by definition, but it is very much a gambling instrument in the sense that you have something like Bitcoin where it's very hard to buy anything with Bitcoin. It's very hard to do anything with Bitcoin. It's not like you can go buy a car with Bitcoin. If you can, it's very difficult to do it. It doesn't have any other utility at this time. People are just buying it simply because it's going up. And I think a big part of it is driven by the Asian market, because the Chinese is very much a gambling culture. They love to gamble. Chinese is driving up housing prices in Canada and the US because they're looking for ways to gamble. They drove up their own housing prices. And that's just the nature of the game. So am I saying Bitcoin is a bad thing to be in? I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's going to be a very dangerous thing to be in, because just like the dot-com bubble stock market, where all these companies that had no sales, no profits, or they were losing tons of money, they had these crazy evaluations, meaning the market decided if they were worth huge amounts of money, even though they weren't actually generating any income. And I was around during the dot-com bubble era, and many of these companies just went, fell apart, went totally bankrupt, and everybody who was invested lost everything. Now you have to understand something. At that time, when people were looking at these dot-com bubble stocks that went bust, there was a lot of reasons why people were buying it. They came up with all these reasons. And if you debated with people and say, well, listen, the companies are not making any money, or they're losing tons of money, there's nothing special with their technology, they would argue with you. They had all these reasons why these companies were worth so much, even though they weren't earning anything. Kind of like Bitcoin, kind of like Ethereum. Let's go back not so far, 2007, 2008, something like that, when you had the silver and gold mania. You had all these silver people. And silver became not just a commodity to buy and to speculate on, it also became almost like a pseudo-religion. It was a fight against the evil bankers. You buy silver, you take down the bankers, and silver was real money. It will never go down. And it became like a cult where people were so into silver, they would stack silver. They actually called themselves silver stackers. You would see all these YouTube videos where people would have like they would take videos of all their silver and all the different types of coins they had and the bricks, and they were like, it's like they're showing off their prized dogs. Look at my silver stacks. And they were sure that when the whole system collapsed, their silver would shoot up in value. At the end of the day, all these people buying silver and gold, they were doing it because they were speculating. They were hoping that the value of gold and silver were going to go up. In fact, they were convinced. And they had all these reasons that they thought silver was going to go to 500 the ounce, and gold was going to go to 10,000 the ounce, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when you see a situation like that, when you see within an asset class, assets could be gold, silver, Bitcoin, houses, whatever, when people start telling you that it can never go down. And they start coming up with these weird nebulous things or excuses as to why these things are so valuable. That's a time when you got to start being a little bit concerned about what's going on. That's usually an indicator of an approaching top before a collapse. Now, I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to collapse now. All I'm saying is that as more and more, as you see those signs, those that type of reasoning come out, you have to be concerned about what actually is going to happen down the road, you know? So with regards to silver and gold, people were being told when silver was like $35, $40, $45 an ounce, it was going to go to 500. And you had people out there who were pushing this whole narrative. And it turns out these people were in the business of selling silver. So a lot of these silver guys out there would come on and talk about, you know, how the system was corrupt and how the bankers were corrupt and government was corrupt, and the only way to protect yourself would be to buy silver and gold. Meanwhile, they were selling you the silver and gold. And a basic piece of logic that people didn't want to listen to was, you know, if these guys thought that silver and gold was so valuable, why were they selling it all and taking the worthless American dollars? They used to call it the fiat dollars. Let me dispel one other myth out there that you're going to hear in the cryptocurrency markets or the cryptocurrency community, is that the US dollar and the Canadian dollar and the Swiss franc, all these currencies backed by governments, how they're worthless. They're absolutely worthless, but somehow Bitcoin is worth more. This is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous because Bitcoin's value is dependent on whether or not there's people who believe in its value. Soon as you got maybe 10 or 20% of the people decide that it's not valuable, that's all it takes to move a market, probably less. The whole thing will collapse. So Bitcoin's value, its price, is totally dependent on people believing that it's going to keep going up. As soon as people start thinking it's not going to go up, it's going to crash. A currency that fluctuates so much like as Bitcoin does and Ethereum does is not a currency, because you can't. The whole point of currency is to exchange value, to be able to exchange value. But if the currency fluctuates so much, you can't use it. It's not a usable tool in that regard. That's why currencies issued by governments are much more usable, because they don't fluctuate so much. 1 or 2%, you know, whatever. They may slowly change 5, 10% in a year, unless they're having major economic upheavals or something. So this whole idea, again, Bitcoin is somehow more secure than the US dollar is absolute lunacy, because the US dollar is backed by so much more than just the speculators in the Bitcoin market. The US dollar is backed by the value of the United States. The value of the United States includes all its land, all the resources, all the gold and the oil and all the farming land that is the U.S. It's also backed by all the productivity of the entire U.S. population, hundreds of millions of people. The government can tax these people, thus backing the dollar. The dollar is also backed by the military, the U.S. military. Very important. You got to understand something. If the Chinese government or the U.S. government or European Union ever decide to put the clamps down on the cryptocurrencies, the clamps, technical term for making it illegal, it's over. The game is over. So am I saying don't speculate in Bitcoin? No, because it's been super profitable, and as I've learned through hard experience about asset bubbles, they could go on for years. For instance, a lot of the dot-com companies that eventually went bust, they kept going for years and years and years and years and years, and 5, 6 years, and even though they were worthless in the end, right? So keep that in mind. So all I'm saying is, if you do decide to speculate in cryptocurrencies, which I think it could be very valuable, because we're actually, my friend and I, we're looking at it, we're looking at different things. My friend put together a couple of Ethereum miners, and right now the Ethereum miners, you got an ROI 9 to 10 months, depending on your electricity costs and so forth. I'm going to be breaking this down a bit more as we go into it. It's worth exploring, there's no question, but don't think that cryptocurrencies is a panacea, and meaning it's the end all be all. That's not true. Some variant of it of that technology maybe result in something, but I would be very surprised that in 5 years that Bitcoin will still be super valuable. I think once the governments decide to do something about it, it's over. These things are over. Because don't fool yourself. If the cryptocurrencies live up to the aspirations of some of these cryptocurrency people, in that it's going to, replace traditional currencies and bypass government controls, are you crazy? The governments are going to come after you so hard, so fast, you'll be done in about 10 seconds. All right, that's pretty much it. Bye-bye.